All right, today we are diving into something really fascinating, the connection between power, personality, and something called ethical wisdom. Let's get right into it. So, our whole discussion today really kicks off with this ancient proverb. And let's be real, it's pretty blunt, right? It's just such a powerful metaphor for what happens when people start gaining influence. It suggests power doesn't necessarily change people, it reveals who they already were.
And that's the big question, isn't it? Why is it that climbing that ladder of success or power so often seems to expose these traits that maybe were hidden before? It really puts a person's true character on full display.
To figure that out, we're going to go on a bit of a journey. First, we'll dig into this psychological concept called the dark triad. But then, and this is the most important part, we're going to explore the tools that can help us push back against it, and instead build up what our source material calls ethical wisdom. Okay, so first things first, to really get that monkey proverb, we've got to understand the potential darkness that power can shine a light on. And that brings us to the dark triad. Now, the dark triad sounds pretty ominous, I know, but it's not some kind of mystical evil force. It's actually a psychological term for a specific group of really undesirable personality traits. Think of it as shorthand for a type of character that can become super destructive, especially when you add power to the mix.
And our source material? It doesn't mess around with fancy language. It just cuts right to the chase, calling the real-world effect of these traits by a single powerful word: evil. That really tells you how serious the impact can be.
So, as the name triad suggests, we're talking about three core things here. You've got narcissism, which is that over-the-top sense of self-importance. Then there's Machiavellianism, a tendency to manipulate and deceive people to get what you want. And finally, psychopathy, which is marked by a serious lack of empathy or remorse. Just knowing this pattern is the first step to being able to counter it. Just think about it for a second. I bet you can come up with an example. Maybe it was a boss who got a big promotion, or a community leader, or even just someone in your friend group. It happens all the time, and the dark triad is what helps us understand what's really going on under the surface. Okay, so we've kind of laid out the problem, but hey, this isn't all doom and gloom. There is another path, and that brings us to how passion and power can work together. This is such a critical idea. We usually hear that power corrupts, but what if that's not quite right? What if power is more like a giant microphone? A microphone doesn't create the voice, right? It just takes whatever is already there, whether it's good or bad, and makes it way, way louder for everyone to hear. And this lays out the two paths so clearly. On the one hand, if you just let power run wild, it amplifies those dark triad traits. But on the other side, you've got this different approach, the intentional use of your energy, your passion, to consciously and deliberately build something good. And it all comes down to this direct quote from our source. This isn't just a philosophical question. It's a practical one. It's the challenge, right? It suggests power isn't something you just have, it's something you have to interact with, skillfully and with intention, so it doesn't run wild.
Which leads us perfectly into our final section, the most actionable one. So how do we actually do it? How do we take that question and turn it into a real strategy for building up our own ethical wisdom? You know, this requires a total shift in how we think. A lot of people are actually scared of power because they've seen it go wrong. But the goal here isn't to run away from influence or leadership. No, the goal is to build the internal strength and framework to handle it responsibly. And our source material gives us a super clear three-step game plan. First, you have to be exposed to the dark triad. Basically, you need to know what it looks like so you can recognize it. You can't fight an enemy you can't see. Second, you consciously apply your passion. You direct your energy as a positive force. And third, you learn to play with power, to use it skillfully, ethically, and wisely. So we keep using this phrase, ethical wisdom. What does that really mean day to day? Well, it's about being able to handle those tricky situations without compromising who you are. It's about making sure your influence, whether it's big or small, is actually doing some good in the world. And ultimately, it's about making sure your actions line up with your deepest values. And this whole three-step process, that is the antidote. It's how you climb the tree without becoming the warning in the proverb. It's how you make sure that when you become more visible, what people see isn't your flaws on blast, but your integrity and your wisdom. So we come full circle, right back to where we began. The proverb's warning is still true. Climbing higher will always reveal something.
Power is, and always will be, a true test of character.
The question then isn't if you'll be seen as you climb, but what will be seen. It's a choice. Is it going to be the unchecked, amplified version of your worst tendencies? Or will it be the thoughtful, wise application of your very best? So as you make your own climb in life, what do you want others to see?